We've heard stories lately about Russia's recent major infrastructure attacks upon Ukraine, but how about a little bit about some of the good things that Ukraine has been achieving? Please subscribe, hit like on this video, and leave your comments, questions, criticisms below. A few days ago, Ukraine launched a massive missile attack on the Russian occupiers in Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula. Ukrainian army reported that two large Russian landing ships, a communication center, and other military infrastructure were hit as a result of this attack, an attack that was made possible with missiles sent by France. The United Kingdom and France have given Ukraine long-range missiles and permission to use them, unlike many other countries around the world. The aftermath of Ukraine's Sunday, March 24th missile strike can be seen in satellite images. French missiles destroyed the communication center of Russia's Black Sea fleet. It's pretty extraordinary. But there's also news regarding the ships themselves. We don't yet have close-up photos of the Russian ships that were hit, so we can't precisely know what kind of damage they sustained, but we do have satellite images showing that at least two Russian ships may have been damaged. It's hard to say how significant that damage is, but we do see that there's some damage on the large Russian landing ships, the Yamal and the Azov. The Russians, it seems, intended to use the Yamal perhaps for landing operations in a Ukrainian city like Odessa, which lately, if you listen to chatter within Russia and Russian politicians, they're making it clear that they desperately want Ukrainian cities like Kharkiv and Odessa, and of course, eventually Kyiv. But they have their sights on cities like Odessa and Kharkiv. Yamal is one of the youngest ships of the Black Sea Fleet. It was built in 1987 in Gdansk, Poland, before the collapse of the Soviet Union, and the Russians used this ship in the war against Georgia in 2008.
10 августа 2008 года мы находились в Республике Абхазия перевозили миротворцев для успокоения Грузии.
Now, it seems that the Yamal and the Azov were the last two from a class of large landing vessels that the Russians had in the Black Sea. Thanks to Ukrainian ingenuity, there are increasing logistical problems in the Crimean Peninsula. The second damaged vessel is a large landing ship with an interesting name, Azov. Here you can see it in the footage when it was passing under the then unfinished Crimean bridge that Putin built from mainland Russia to Crimea after he took the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine. That military ship Azov was also built in Poland. And this is interesting. What I've heard talking to people is that, when ships like that were, say, built in Poland are damaged, it could complicate repairs for the Russians because they don't have access to the original shipyards where this was built. And now about this third ship that seems to have been hit. We haven't seen evidence in the satellite images, but Russian chatter claims that it was also damaged. This is the Russian reconnaissance ship Ivan Kurs. In 2020, that same ship, the Ivan Kurs, almost collided with an American destroyer in the Arabian Sea. Now, it's also very crucial to note, because of the Ukrainian successes in the Black Sea and in the Crimean Peninsula, Russians have been forced to move their naval operations far away from Sebastopol. In fact, most of what is still left of Russia's Black Sea Fleet is now based in a port in Novorossiysk, which is 600 kilometers from Odessa. The Russians had to move their ships to mainland Russia away from the Crimean Peninsula. So the Ukrainians have really, they're working on this process of making Crimea strategically untenable for the Russians. And this is what we should point out, in the first year of the full-scale invasion, Turkey and the United Nations worked to broker a grain deal, which they claimed it was a great thing that would allow Ukraine, so gracefully allow Ukraine permission to export safely its grain through a corridor in the Black Sea, and Russia promised not to attack. That deal expired in summer of 2023, so all bets were off. And since then, especially since August of 2023, Ukrainians now, because they weren't restricted by that deal, have been able methodically, month by month, to hit Russian targets in the Black Sea. And this is a huge success story for Ukraine because, in fact, when they had the Black Sea grain deal, they exported less than they are now without the grain deal. And I think this shows if you negotiate with someone who wants to destroy you, it's not going to be a good situation. The only way is by fighting back, using your ingenuity and wit and weapons. And we're seeing the success of that. It's working. It's really extraordinary how Ukrainian ports are working despite this hell, despite frequent attacks by Russia. And the Ukraine is exporting now almost as much grain as they did before the full-scale invasion. It's a wonderful, incredible effort and success story. And thanks to our listeners from Chicago and many other places around the world, we've been able to lately supply anti-drone backpacks, drone jamming backpacks, to soldiers and medics at the front lines. These protect them from incoming Russian kamikaze drones. This has been Joe Lindsley reporting on Chicago's WGN Radio every single weekday of Russia's full-scale invasion from Ukraine.